Good news to you. Good news to you. And welcome to this special edition of God is Still Saying Something under the grace of our man of God, the highly esteemed prophet to Christianity, Prophet Uebert Angel.
Amen.
Here at the studio, we're super excited because a lot is taking place in the good news world. You see, the grace that is upon our man of God is a grace that is speaking.
Hallelujah.
God is still saying something in these end times under our man of God, Prophet Uebert Angel. We are never surprised by what is happening.
Never.
Why? Because we are always up to date.
Always.
As he always says, as our man of God always says, that he is powered by the Holy Ghost.
Hallelujah.
So whatever you hear, it is Zion news.
Yes.
So we are never backward. We are always forward.
Forward.
Because we've got the prophet to Christianity who's hearing directly from God. And so I am really blessed to be here tonight.
Hallelujah.
Under this grace of our man of God. Thank you so very much, Prophet Uebert Angel. Thank you for saying yes to Jesus and for being bold and continually pressing on, especially in these end times, declaring and speaking as God is saying. I am super blessed to live in your eon, and thank you so very much for everything which you are doing in my life personally. Hallelujah. I'm blessed, forever blessed by you, sir. I love you so very much. And this is yet another episode of God is Still Saying Something. Please let somebody know right now that they have to tune in. Share this broadcast with somebody. Let them know. Is it maybe you're on WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever social media platform you are using? Let somebody know God is still saying something, and it has already started. Share it whatever way you want to share it. Social media, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. Share this broadcast because something is about to take place on this special edition of God is Saying Something, the rise of conservatism in Europe.
Amen.
It's going to be really good. So I am here tonight in the studio with my brothers and the generals of God in the UK. And let me start with Executive Pastor Moses.
Yes, thank you so much, Secretary General. Actually, I can say it's a privilege to be on the platform set by our man of God, the highly esteemed Prophet Uebert Angel. So I will just begin by thanking him, for indeed he's the one that answered the call, and he has set this stage. When we talk about end time, we talk about eschatology, you know, the study of the end time. But I just begin to deeply research in my own spirit to say that if we talk about eschatology, the highly esteemed Prophet Uebert Angel, he's the one actually that is championing what is happening in this end time.
That's right.
By the prophetic voice and the prophetic, word spoken as an oracle of God. And we see these things come alive. We see these things come to pass. International prophecy being fulfilled in our lifetime. Seeing it happen. It has been spoken. You know, sometimes we can say few weeks back, few months back, few years back. But in the end, the word of God spoken by the prophet, surely it shall really surface and come to pass. So I want to thank him so much dearly that he listens to God and he speaks the voice of God like no other. As he said, the prophet is void of his own personal opinion. So whatever we are going to discover, we believe God has spoken through the prophet. And these things that come to pass. So it is an exciting time to really be here.
That's right. That's right. That's beautiful. And we've got AP today.
Good news to you, sir. Good news to first of all, I honor my man of God, the highly esteemed Prophet Uebert Angel.
Amen.
It's an absolute honor to be on this platform.
That's right.
And being able to speak about these prophecies. I mean, we're blessed in the good news world that we have these prophecies, and we are ahead of the time. As our man of God is more up to date than tomorrow's newspaper.
And tomorrow's newspaper.
So we are always ahead of it. Every time there's prophecies, like when there's something coming out, we know that our man of God have spoken about it. And it's an absolute honor to be here, sir. Thank you. I love you so much. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. So thank you so much, Prophet Uebert Angel. We are blessed to have such a mighty prophet in our midst. And I'm blessed to be a son. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so very much. Director Ricky, you're here. Thank you so very much for being here.
Good news to you, sir. Honored to be here as always, and on one of my favorite programs, God is Still Saying Something.
It's amazing, yes.
It's amazing. We get to dissect the prophecies that our man of God has given to the world and go a little bit deeper around the subject matter. So it's so exciting. So I just want to start by honoring my man of God, my life coach and mentor, Prophet Uebert Angel. Love you so much, sir. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for this amazing vision that we are all engrossed in, that we are all not only a part of, but we own. And that's the vision of the good news world that is changed not only my life and everybody here on this set, but everybody watching at home, and millions upon millions of lives around the world. And That's just with us warming up.
Yes.
Imagine now as we are moving to another level. So we love you so much, sir, and thank you for everything. And I'm just happy to be here, sir.
Thank you so very much for being here. You know, before this set, I was actually thinking, this whole day, I was actually thinking like, you know, for anybody who's still doubting that God is still saying something, you've got to be somehow stupid. If you actually think that there is no God who speaks, you know, sometimes people go to churches where they never hear the man of God saying, this is what God is saying. Or the man of God who used to hear from God. Ours hears from God today.
He is.
And so I was actually thinking about, can you imagine that if there is anyone out there doubting that Prophet Uebert Angel is speaking what God is saying? Honestly, let's put this into perspective, right? Look at what just happened recently in the UK.
Right.
Our man of God is in Zimbabwe, right? And our man of God being in Zimbabwe, these prophecies were given 2021, 2022. If somebody thought that these were things which were created later on and there's something which has happened and then the people come together and then say, let the men of God organize something and start talking. Then let's prove it this way. Our men of God being in Zimbabwe, how is it that we've got recordings from 2021 in Colosseum?
In the UK.
In the UK.
London.
In London. And he's talking about these things. So in other words, you've got to think, did they actually bring Prophet Uebert Angel to England first? And organized this
crowd.
And call this crowd and hired the hall and put the people together and say, hey, come together and let's fake this whole thing.
So there's a phrase in legal terms, it's beyond reasonable doubt.
Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. I saw this program where they said the paranormal. They were talking about the paranormal.
That's right.
And they were talking about our men of God concerning paranormal. And that this is beyond. But this is not just paranormal. This is not paranormal. What Prophet Uebert Angel does is beyond paranormal. It's beyond magic. So let's show you one of our first prophecies, which we are dissecting here tonight, of what our men of God said about the riots which were about to take place in the UK, which were coming to the UK, and the uprising which was going to be happening. And please, have a look at this.
Those who live in Britain, you got to listen to this. The angel began to whisper to my ears and said, without one shot fired, Britain has lost ground.
Wow.
It is a spiritual war that they have not seen, that they have lost.
Wow.
He said, with not a shot fired, with no bomb blasting, they've been taken over.
Wow.
And then he said, this Britain that they think they have built this, they are now putting a call of prayer. London is hearing the call of prayer from a Muslim world. Colonized without a shot fired. Colonized by a religion.
Without a shot fired.
Said, but it will start a civil unrest.
A police car was smashed up and rolled over as tensions boiled over following an incident at 5 p.m. yesterday, which saw social workers remove 4 children from a nearby home. Hundreds of locals in Hare Hills poured out onto the streets, throwing rocks and bottles and setting fires before the police tactically withdrew from the area. Wheelie bins were also torched as the violence continued. As many as 5 police vehicles were damaged during the disorder. The fire service even refused to send crews in because of the ongoing danger presented on the ground.
Today was a great day for people who think diversity is our greatest strength. Central London was brought to a screeching halt so that some Muslims could celebrate Al-Shura Day. So the Metropolitan Police decided to close several major roads so a procession could march through the capital. They said officers are present to minimise disruption and deal with any incidents. OK, incidents like this?
Powered by the Holy Spirit, Uebert Angel. More up to date than tomorrow's newspaper.
Have a look at that. Our man of God saw it before it came to pass.
Yes.
Before it was ever on television.
Yes.
Before anyone actually thought about that. Look at the violence. You're talking about the burning of property in Leeds. And I actually live just like 50 miles away from Leeds.
Right,
That's right.
And we were actually hearing, people were sending messages saying that Leeds has actually been blocked. Don't be going to Leeds.
And we have a branch in Leeds.
And we've got a branch in Leeds. We've got a branch in Leeds. Executive Pastor Moses.
Yeah, this phenomenon, if you put it in another perspective, is when the prophet speaks, as if he had gone already ahead of time.
That's right.
Okay, we are living now in 2024, but this prophecy being declared, years, months before. It means that the prophet had traveled in time to see what is happening and say, well, this one particularly is for you in the United Kingdom, for you in Britain.
That's right.
You have to listen carefully. Now, to see these things, come to pass, materializing before our very eyes, it means that the prophet, if we can say a superior spirit, that can go beyond the timing of ordinary man and see things happening, able to declare it boldly, and we see it coming to pass. It means that actually he holds the pulse of God. He holds the temperature of God, and whatever he's saying in this time, it means that that's what God is saying to this land dispensation. And the violence, you see the way it was triggered. And he said the violence, and people think, when you think about violence, probably think about third world countries. You think about those countries and you say they are still barbaric and all that. But to see it in the first world, to see it in the Western world, that really is championing when they say democracy, when they say the rule of law, when they talk about all these things that encompass a democratic society, to see these things happening, where even the law enforcers have to say we have to stay away.
They stayed away. They ran away.
Complete chaos, outlaw, lawlessness taking hold of an entire city.
That's right.
Leeds. In the United Kingdom, that stands as a beacon of even democracies around the world. Then you know that when the prophet of God speaks, the highest esteemed prophet Uebert, that which he speaks, don't take it casual.
That's right.
Don't take it, just on the simple basis, because he's talking things that are language beyond, the world that we live in. So to even give a description of these things happening before our very eyes, you can only say, well, if we have to maybe create other words to be able to describe it properly. But what we have seen, simply because the prophet have declared it, we come and see it come to pass. It means that whatever the prophet of God said to us, even in our own lives, as you said, we have a branch there in Leeds. It means that for sure, 1,000%. When the prophet of God speaks, we are sure and certain that which he has spoken will come to pass. So you just have to hold it, and take it to the bank.
That's really amazing, because I remember when our man of God took us to Israel. And when you get there, what the guide says is, if you picked up a stone and threw it anywhere in Israel, you are bound to know that there is something which happened where that stone landed. If there is any event around the world which happens, you just need to know that Prophet Uebert Angel said something about you, because God is still saying something through Prophet Uebert Angel. AP Charlie, what do you think about what we just saw right here, what our man of God prophesied?
It's unbelievable, and as you said, a man of God has already seen it. So I ever get so many people that say, oh, this has happened. I said, I told you this was going to happen, because our man of God's already spoken it.
That's right,
So you can tell people this is going to happen, they don't believe you, and then it comes to pass. Our man of God is always on point. And watching this, as obviously being British myself, and a man of God says they're colonized by a religion.
Can you imagine that?
Imagine colonized by a religion, and obviously we're a Christian nation.
Yes.
And you see they're shutting down London. There's parts of London that are being shut down.
Yes.
And he said they will hear the call of prayer.
They're
shutting it down for them to pray.
That's right.
In a Christian nation.
That's right.
Busy streets.
That's right.
And obviously, I attend the London branch, so it's very significant. Executive Pastor Moses is in the London branch. Pastor Ricky, we go to London branch, and for London to be shut down, for them to be able to pray
by Muslims
in a Christian nation, is crazy.
Yeah.
But our man of God has seen it, and he said it's a spiritual war that they haven't seen, but our man of God has seen it.
That's right. That's right.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, look at it like what you're saying. He said it's a spiritual warfare.
Yes.
And a lot of people are not realizing what is taking place. Look at what happened after the elections.
Exactly.
When these Muslims were actually going back to their constituencies.
Yes.
The way they were being welcomed with swords and knives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot which was happening. Why? Because they were showing that it was not just a normal election. To everybody else, it was just like another vote. And it was like another election. But to them, it was actually a spiritual thing which was taking place. Because to them, they've got something they are believing, something which they've been told that they need to be doing. You see? So that is very, very powerful.
That's why when the prophetic word that even the prophet himself released, you know, concerning the violence, he was saying that, you know, the United Kingdom, we are sitting in this country, you know, unaware that it's already a battle have been lost in the realm of the spirit. Because he said that the Muslims are taking over without a shot being fired.
That's right.
And that you can see when entire surroundings, entire community shut down simply because there has to be a call to prayer in the center of London. You know, so you can understand, looking at the significance of what, you know, the United Kingdom of Britain is, you know, when it comes to Christianity. You know, that means that actually the spiritual warfare that our men of God have seen, we see the practicality. We see it happening before our very eyes. So that's why people go, those Muslims going in their various communities, neighborhood, and rejoicing because they feel that spiritually they have conquered.
That's right. Director Ricky, I know that this is your special, it's got a special heart. It's a place in your heart.
Passion in here somewhere. The first thing I would like to mention is something that's very relevant, actually. Is that the ministry that we know as Spirit Embassy, that we're all a part of, actually was founded and started here in Britain.
That's right.
So our man of God was assembled and called and spoken to by God in Zimbabwe. But actually, the ministry started 2007 in the UK.
In the UK, yes.
And there's something biblical about when prophets are sent to a location, they're sent somewhere that's dry. And this place, UK, became spiritually dry.
That's right.
And to a certain extent, before the prophet arrived here, it was dead spiritually. Everyone had stopped. I think even I can say from my mother's generation, they stopped going to church. Before my mother's generation, everybody was locked into churches. Everything was Christian. And then all of a sudden, one generation, the whole thing flipped. So when our man of God was sent here, you know, as we know that there's no coincidence with God.
That's right.
And it was to start this move that started now by Spirit Embassy in the UK. And now we're seeing a revival taking place in the UK. And we are part of that revival.
That's correct.
If you look at me and Assistant Pastor Charlie, we were spiritually dead before we met Prophet Uebert.
That's right.
These are facts. This is not just some funny story. This is a reality. So what we can say is that just like the prophecy said at the beginning, is that the country is being colonized spiritually, taken over without a shot fired and without people realizing that there's even a spiritual battle.
Can you imagine?
So now we see this thing of Islam, and it's not just Islam, it's anti-Christian sentiment. It's the spirit of antichrist, and it's coming through Islam, it's coming through LGBTQ, it's coming through feminism, it's coming through all of this pro-Palestine, pro-Ukraine, pro-what. You'll find that in the middle of all of these protests and things that they do, it's the same people.
That's right,
Just doing each in different cause. So when we saw this prophecy be fulfilled of civil unrest, I mean, as soon as our man of God, and we have to note another thing, our man of God prophesied that this year. He could have prophesied it any other year, but because anyone would say, we could have predicted it's going to be civil unrest.
That's right.
No. He prophesied it this year to demonstrate. I'm prophesying now in real time. It's happening right now.
That's right.
When we saw what happened in Leeds, and I think there's a video there, guys, you can play just in the background while we talk about it. What we saw happen in Leeds, which was the first time ever in our lifetime that we are seeing buses be burned, that police cars are being turned over.
That's right.
And remember, this is the people who are doing this are not people who were born here.
No.
These people who have came through this open door policy immigration system, which is also anti-Christian. Because the Bible does not teach that all borders should be open.
No.
It says borders are valuable.
Even heaven has got a border.
Even heaven says. So this is what's happening, and it was actually the Romanian gypsy community that started and instigated this thing that we're calling the riots, which is still going on today, by the way, because the social services took one of their children away. And you know the story, Charlie. Basically, one of the children was taken to the hospital with a cracked skull. And now in Britain, for those that don't know, watching around the world, we have this thing called social services.
Yes.
If your child turns up at a hospital or a school or some type of institution
That's right.
with injuries that are severe or something that can't be explained,
That's
that looks
correct.
like it could be a
That's
form
correct.
of abuse,
Yes.
the social services now get involved.
Exactly.
And they can take your child.
That's right.
So in this
For the
case,
protection.
for the protection, and then they sort out whatever needs to be sorted out, and then your child is given back custody if it goes that direction.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened. And now you had the whole of the Romanian gypsy community opposing this action, which is British law.
Yes, yes.
And the Muslim community of the same region, which is Leeds, who have all came through immigration, through the open door policy on the boats and all these things, illegal immigration we would call it, it's not legitimate immigration, joining forces and fighting against British law. And this is all anti-Christian stuff. And we're seeing it just like we saw with the mass prayer in London. We're seeing it in all these different pockets. We saw Labour Party come into power. We saw the cabinet in Parliament being made up of majority Muslims and people swearing their oath on the Quran in Britain.
In Britain.
And this is a Christian nation. So we're seeing the anti-Christ sentiment, but our Father has raised us to now be the pushback.
That's right.
And that's exactly what our man of God is doing, being the watchman.
The watchman.
And he's been the watchman faithfully, watching, standing by the wall and guarding and watching to see what is coming. And one thing I love about him, he has never been quiet. He always speaks. And when he speaks, these things come to pass. Why? Because God is still saying something, and he wants to prove that somebody has to hear and see the realities of the existence of God. So as you are watching right here tonight, can you imagine, look at what happened in America and what J.D. Vance said.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he said a very powerful statement there. And he was talking about the countries which are going to be having nuclear weapons. And he said the first Islamic nation in Europe to have a nuclear weapon is Britain.
He said, we thought it was going to be Pakistan. We thought it was going to be Iran. We didn't know it was going to be Britain.
That's right.
As the
taken
first
over without a shot fired. Just as our man of God said.
It's very clear that even the seat of power, when Director Ricky, when you mentioned exactly, they are taking the oath of office, on the Quran instead of the Bible. So you should understand which God they are swearing to. Their allegiance is to another God, not the God of the Bible.
That's right.
Because they made it very plain that they will not even do whatever is required by law to say if you have to sworn in an officer or a minister or cabinet or any official for that matter, it has to be on the Bible. But they changed it overnight. That shows to you that they have already crept into the highest office.
That's right. I mean, look at it this way. It is what you just said there is super, important for us to actually realize the gravity of what is happening in this country right now. The gravity of what is taking place. And yet our men of God spoke about this. The issue still comes back to us as the church. The church, because our men of God prophesied about this. Our men of God said, if the church does not pray.
That's the important part.
He said, if the church does not pray,
that's the important
it is not the will of God for labor to come in. I want to show you this video very quickly. Please have a look at this video, because our man of God already said, if the church does not pray, the plan of God is conservatism. But if you do not pray, labor is coming in. And we know that when labor comes in, what comes with it, Pastor Rich?
So, Secretary General, with labor, we get Islam, we get LGBTQ, we get more of the divisive type of things like strong feminism and what's this thing called global warming and all of this nonsensical stuff, anti-Christian sentiment. One thing is for sure, they will not be pushing Christianity. They'll be trying to push Christianity away. So that's what we're going to get with the Labour set.
Wow, it's really amazing. So if you are a Christian, instead of you standing on the sidelines and criticizing and thinking like, is this really real? The prophecies, you can see what is happening. These prophecies were prophesied, some of them 3 years ago.
That's right.
2 years ago, and some this year. So for you to be standing on the sidelines as if like, these guys are just crazy. And yet you are seeing a Christian nation being chopped piece by piece, being taken over without fire. He referred to it as spiritual colonization.
And so
being colonized.
So let's just say this. arguably the finest Christian nation in history.
Yes.
One that spread Christianity around the world.
Yes, that's correct, because the King James Version comes from this country.
Yeah. And the missionaries came from this country and went worldwide. If we talk about America, UK.
Yes.
So join our men of God. Join the good news world, the good news nation, as we are praying for the whole of UK, as we are praying for Europe, as our men of God spoke about the rise of conservatism.
Yes, sir.
And he actually said it's not the Conservative Party I'm talking about. It is the rise of the conservatism itself.
That's right.
Yes.
Can you go a little bit deeper on that?
Something very important to mention about conservatism, and then I'll...
No, because
it's really exciting.
we're excited.
Conservatism. You know, the rise of conservatism, not looking at a particular party, is simply because you look at family value.
That's right.
You know, it is biblical.
Yes.
But when the left comes, or the labor, or people who are outside of the conservatism, they are kind of promoting something else. They are bringing something else on the table.
Which is opposite
like
to God.
what you were saying, the LGBT plus QQ, YZ. Nobody knows what else they will be bringing. You know, and for this reason, our men of God say, well, the Christians, you know, in those nations, like particularly United Kingdom, we need to pray. We need to be really fervent in prayer because something is shifting in the realm of the spirit, and we should not be ignorant about it. Because what we are seeing the demonstration on the street, what we are seeing people laying hands on the Quran to pray or to take oath of office. All these things are spiritual, you know, kind of a spiritual colonization that is taking place in the end, where finally this country, we don't know where it will be leading. Because before we say it's Christian. But as time goes on, you also see the decrease, you know, in Christianity, the number of people that are going away. And so when these forces come who are not conservative, in the end, they will eventually say, well, for Christianity, it's nothing. You know, so just want, if possible, to even abolish it. And this is why we have to really pray.
That's what they're trying to do. And if we look at the word conservatism, a lot of people get confused between conservatism as a political ideology and the party, the Conservative Party.
That's right.
The reason why Conservative Party are not in power, obviously we talked about the prayer that our man of God said was necessary, but also it is down to the fact that they were not conservative enough. In the way they were acting, they were acting like... God said that's what he said. He said the conservative in name, but not in nature. So in conservatism, especially when we talk about Western countries like America, UK, Europe, we conserve the ideology of the nation and the history and heritage of the nation. And this region, their heritage is Christianity.
That's right.
So when we talk about conservatism, we talk about Christianity.
That's correct.
If we were talking about conservatism in Iraq, oh, well, that was Christian too. If we talk about Saudi Arabia or something like that, you might say their conservatism would be Islam. But over here, it is Christianity.
That's correct.
And that's why they're trying to go against it. That's why conservatism is important now.
That's very, very correct.
And then you see, like, even with the George flag, the cross. Now, what they will do is paint out that it's racist to have this cross now.
That's right.
But the main thing they're trying to do is the cross is the problem.
It's the actual cross.
They want to remove it. Even on the England football shirt, it's gone.
They changed it to a purple and pink. It looked like LGBT,
like
trans.
Yes, like the alphabet community, as you mentioned. And the family values, the core values that you were saying, they're
family
being
nucleus.
It's going from the UK. And you even see, like, for Easter, there's barely anything mentioned about Jesus.
That's right.
Yet when they're doing the Ramadan, there was a whole ribbon cutting.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yes.
What about Christmas? They want to talk about Santa. They don't want to talk about Jesus.
They don't want to talk about Jesus.
So they're really actively trying to remove Christianity. They're not even trying to hide it.
So have a look at this video. Our men of God saying we need to pray for the UK. We need to pray. Why? Because if Labour comes in, something not good is going to be happening. Why? Because our man of God sees into the future. And as he sees into the future, this is what then happens. Have a look at this.
There is a thing that I began to see even in Britain, where God was really saying, I do not want what is about to happen. Because in that vision, I began to see Labour taking many seats. And God said, I spoke to you before, and I've said there is a rise of conservatives. But these ones that are there in Britain have become liberals. My mandate is not being carried out. But there is an evil plan that the enemy has already planned to sit Labour in power. So that most people of your race will be so excited that Labour is sitting. But it will not be my doing. I saw the devil advancing in locations to a point where Labour sit in power. Where you see Stemmer sitting like this, saying, I'm the Prime Minister. Yet God's will is conservatives. I begin to see Labour taking many seats to a point where you see Stemmer sitting like this, saying, I'm the Prime Minister.
And there is Sir Keir Starmer, who will become Britain's 58th Prime Minister.
We did it! You campaigned for it, you fought for it, you voted for it, and now it has arrived. Change begins now.
Powered by the Holy Spirit. Uebert Angel. More up to date than tomorrow's newspaper.
Look at that. If you are a Christian, you have got to get on board with what God is saying. How can you be a Christian who's opposed to what God is saying? How do you become a Christian who's actually, the man of God is saying this, the prophet of God is saying this, and God is saying something. God is still saying something.
That's right.
Through Prophet Uebert Angel, and you are actually a Christian opposing what is being said. What exactly are you after? Which God are you serving? And which part of Christianity, which heaven do you belong to? So it is very important for Christians to really to rise up and realize that this Christianity is under attack. And the politicians are allowing it to be under attack. They will think that it's about politics. It's not politics.
That's correct.
It's not politics. It is simply an attack on Christianity.
That's right.
What have you got to say about this executive?
No, when the prophetic word, even when the prophet himself, you can look at his posture, because you can see that he feels for the nation of the United Kingdom, Britain. He feels for it because he knows, as you rightly said, the birth of a Spirit Embassy, the Good News World, the Good News Church, it started here. So his heart and soul is to this country. But yet he's saying exactly what God is saying. That even the rise of the laborers,
that's right.
as, the Labour Party that is now, in power today. He said this is not God's plan. But because Christians have failed actually to live up to what it is expected of them, that is actually to pray and seek the face of God, so that things will be shifted in the atmosphere. Because the agenda of the enemy is what we are living in now. With Labour in power, it means that the agenda of the enemy has succeeded. And so the prophet of God is really emphasizing what needs to be done as Christian. So, as you were rightly saying, anyone out there watching, being a Christian, it means that the core values have to be maintained.
That's
because
correct.
you want to make sure that we have families out there.
That's correct.
And that's people who are against families, people who are against the very values and the doctrines of the Bible, and what God is saying. That's why we continue to say God is still saying something. Because Hebrew 13 verse 8 tells us God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. People are trying to dilute and change the way God's supposed to be speaking. But thank God we have the prophet of God in this last dispensation who stands for God, who speaks for God, who is not compromising on the very value that it takes for God to really manifest in our day and age. We have that responsibility as Christians.
That's right. Really powerful. Thank you so very much, Pastor Moses. So, AP Charlie, what have you got to say in closing?
I'd just like to say we're so blessed to have a man of God as Prophet Uebert Angel speaking in this last dispensation and guiding us in this way. I always say it's better to know the uncomfortable truth than the false future. When you have a man of God like Prophet Uebert Angel, who is giving you these prophecies, and you're being able to affect them as well, so you're getting your warning. It's helping people. It's unbelievable. And as you're saying, with the core values in this country, we need to rise. As British people, we need to rise and we need to understand. And like what our executive pastor said, you can't split the Bible. The Bible is about, our man of God says, shut up when the Bible is talking. So we have to continue to pray. We have to continue to rise as British people. And we're so blessed to have our man of God, Prophet.
Thank you so very much for that.
Just important final remark is that one thing we can see is that our man of God, he always has taught us that prophecy is revealing to redeem.
That's correct, yes.
So we saw it with the Trump one that we commented on the last program, and now we're seeing it with the British one. That it wasn't just about, okay, this is what's going to happen. No, it was about, this is what's going to happen, but we can do this to try and fix it. As AP Charlie said, it's important that we continue in prayer, but that we also rise up, and our man of God has actually instructed us to do this many times. To rise up in politics.
That's correct.
To rise up in the areas of influence.
That's correct.
And be able to bring the gospel into them areas. And one thing that we'll see in the world is that there's a thing called identity politics. So people are focusing on skin color, it's your race, it's your skin color, it's where you come from, or it's your gender, or it's whatever. So it's a tactic called divide and conquer.
That's correct.
So the thing that our man of God has said, and this is very important, and this will be the last thing that I say, is that we need to let all of that go. And we need to focus on Christ.
That's correct.
Christianity. We are united by Christianity. Britain prospered on Christianity. America prospered on Christianity. Europe prospered on Christianity. And the only way they're going to survive anything that's taking place right now is by going back to Christ.
That's right.
And that's what we are here to do.
That's very, very powerful. Thank you so very much for that, Pastor Ricky. I think a lot of Christians, what they do not realize is what the Lord said before he left. He said, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached to the nations of the world as a testimony. And then the end will come. And this is what the Lord actually gave as a mandate, that the good news of the kingdom should be preached in all the nations of the world as a testimony.
That's right.
But remember this, the Muslims also have got their own belief, which they call a prophecy, which was also left for them. That before their Messiah comes, the whole nations, or rather most of the European countries, are going to be under Islamic rule. So that's a prophet lie. So what they are simply doing is to act on the prophecy, which they were actually given. And for you as a Christian, you need to actually also follow the prophet of our times right now.
That's right.
And this is when you should be rising up and awakening and realizing that if we do not stand for Christianity, nobody else is going to stand.
That's right. It's our job.
So it is your job, it is your responsibility for you to actually even share this broadcast and to share the prophecies from our man of God.
That's right.
He has got the pulse of God in his hand.
Hallelujah.
He knows the heart of God. He knows what God is saying in season and in time. So we are never really perturbed with what is happening around the world.
That's right.
We've already been equipped.
We've seen it.
And our men of God has seen it. So listen, it is very important for you to follow this prophetic, as our men of God always say, never be found on the wrong side of prophecy. And so if God is saying the plan of God is conservatism, your mindset, whether you like it or not, whether you like it or yes, you need to be aligning with what God is saying, especially in these end times. You'll never know. Anything can happen.
Amen.
And the Lord is coming, and is coming very, very fast. And as our man of God always says, there is nothing that is left. There is no more sign that is left for the Lord to return.
That's right.
In the rapture.
That's right.
So this is very, very powerful and really amazing. And gentlemen, I do not even know how to actually...
We need a part two, sir.
We need a part two on this one.
Yes, with what's going on in the world today, I think almost every single day, the next 24 hours, we expect something to happen. That everything is just being bombarded towards Christianity being diminished to the extent where the people say is no more. So every country that is in the forefront of promoting Christianity or promoting the values that God holds so dear, they have been targeted today by the Muslims. You know, by anything outside of Christianity, they are just on the forefront with it. So we have to also take a stand. We have to make sure, as you said, going into politics, going into the areas of influence, going everywhere, making sure that Christ is also preached and shared, because the time is near. We say our men of God, and he has clearly said that he is the prophet of this last dispensation. After this one, there's no more. At the end. So the time is given to you to make sure that you can spread this word, spread the broadcast, spread everything that has to do with the prophetic word given by the men man of God, the esteemed Prophet
That's
Uebert
right.
Angel. For
That's
God
right.
continue to use him because God is still saying something.
Yes. We love you so very much, Prophet Uebert Angel, and continue moving, sir, and keep on pushing. And we are right there standing together with you. We love you so very much, and thank you for saying yes to Jesus Christ. And for everybody watching right here today and our partners across the Good News world, thank you so very much for everything which you are doing for Jesus, especially in these end times. We love you so very much and appreciate you for everything. So we are definitely not out of good news.
Never.
We're just out of time. We'll see you soon for another God is Still Saying Something.
Amen.
Stay connected.